didn't dare move. Terror shot through his body like a lightning bolt. He was wearing soft leather sandals, and he knew that if he moved even a single toe, the beast would bite him. The islands of Indonesia are home to a great many wonders, from pristine beaches to volcanic lakes and intricate Buddhist temples. But be warned, here be dragons. Komodo dragons. Native to only a select number of islands in the Indonesian archipelago, Komodo dragons are the world's biggest lizard, reaching lengths of up to 3 meters, 10 feet, and weighing as much as 70 kilos, 150 pounds. They're basically dinosaurs that never went extinct. When these beasts were first encountered by Dutch sailors in 1910, they sent back wild stories of a creature that could spit fire. Unfortunately, this was not quite true, but almost. For a long time, we believed that these lizards used bacteria in their mouths as a form of venom to bring down their prey. This is now being largely discredited, and zoologists have discovered that instead of using saliva as venom, they actually use, venom as venom. Komodo dragons have 2 glands at the base of their mouths, which produce an anticoagulant substance that causes their prey to keep on bleeding after a bite. This allows the lizard to track them as they gradually get weaker and weaker until eventually they bleed out and it's feeding time. But size and venom aren't the only thing that make these animals dangerous. These apex predators use a whole armory of weapons, from chainmail scales to massive claws, and even detachable teeth that get stuck in the flesh of their enemies to bring down animals often much larger than them, such as water buffalo. Fortunately, they don't seem to be that dangerous to humans. Over the last 40 years, since we started keeping record, there have been only a few dozen attacks and only 5 confirmed human deaths at the hands, or should we say teeth, of these man-eating dragons. One such attack happened on April 30th, 2009, an experienced ranger and citizen of the islands, who will never be the same again. Day of the attack, April 30th, 2009. It happened on the island of Rinca, the largest island in the Komodo National Park. It's a landscape dominated by majestic wildlife and stunning scenery. Rolling savannas mixed with dense forests under a wide sky surrounded by mountain, and always the smell of the ocean is in the air. It should be paradise, but there are deadly dangers hidden in the long grass. May always got up early in the morning. It was part of his job, and he liked to see the sunrise from his cabin home on a mountain in the middle of the island. This particular morning, he watched it color the sky, slowly bleeding into the horizon like a wounded animal. If May had been a superstitious man, he might have seen it as a bad omen of things to come. Perhaps he should have stayed at home that day. Walking through the thick undergrowth, his regular commute, he saw a higher concentration of dragons than usual. Normally, they were all further south at this time of year, but the rains had been bad for the past few years, and the water buffalo population was less than it should be. May suspected the dragons were growing hungry and creeping nearer to human villages because of the smells of cooking and livestock. It was a worry, but not a major one. May had been a ranger at the Komodo National Park for over 10 years, and he'd never seen a bad dragon attack. This was all about to change. Arriving at the ranger's headquarters, he immediately noticed something was wrong. The front door, which is a hard wooden door designed to keep dragons out, was wide open. It later became clear that the cleaner had forgotten to lock it the night before. May entered with caution, holding his stick up like a weapon. He walked slowly around the room, looking in every corner. Nothing. The room was empty. With a sigh, he sat down at his desk, ready for another day of writing reports and dealing with tourists. A quiet, peaceful life. It was at that moment he heard the hissing. With a sinking sense of dread, he looked under the desk, and there was a huge dragon curled into a ball. Its dark eyes were fixed on him, and its forked tongue tasted the air. May didn't dare move. Terror shot through his body like a lightning bolt. He was wearing soft leather sandals, and he knew that if he moved even a single toe, the beast would bite him. He tried to call for help softly, but nobody heard. There was only one other ranger on duty that morning, and he was outside fetching water from the well. May had no choice. He had to risk it. With all the courage he could muster, he stood up quickly and tried to run for the door. But his legs were tangled up with the chair, and his knees banged hard against the open drawers of the wooden desk. Suddenly, May felt a searing pain in his right foot. The 3-meter-long dragon had its massive jaws wrapped around his ankle, ready to rip and tear. May screamed for help and tried to hit the animal with his hands. It made no difference. His fist may as well have been flies batting against the lizard's nose. Luckily, after a moment, May's training kicked in, and he pressed his other leg deep into the dragon's neck, pinning it under him, and he then leaned down and grabbed its mouth with both hands. After an incredible effort, he was able to wrench the dragon's jaws open and pull his bleeding leg from its reach. But as he did, the beast snapped down and caught one of his hands, ripping the flesh right off. More blood drenched the desk, and May backed into a corner, shouting and kicking at the animal, which was between him and the exit. By this point, the other ranger had heard the commotion and had come to help, but there was another, bigger problem. Komodo dragons are supreme hunters with a sense of smell that can detect blood from over a kilometer away. In a matter of minutes, the cabin was surrounded by 7 hungry dragons drawn by the scent of May's wounds. The other ranger was terrified, but he rushed in to help May, hitting the dragon on the nose repeatedly with his stick. He succeeded in driving it back under the desk. Then he led May limping to the door, only to find the yard full of dragons. If May had been alone, he would most likely have died. But the other ranger saved his life, swinging wildly with his stick and shouting at the top of his lungs. Eventually, others arrived and drove all the dragons back into the wilderness. May had lost a lot of blood, but they took him to Flores Island to get medicine, and from there flew him to Bali, where he spent a week being treated and had to spend 6 months in recovery before going back to work. Even today, his hand is so badly damaged that he can't write reports for long, and sometimes when he looks out at the majestic jungles of Rinca Island, he wonders if the dragon that bit him is still out there, perhaps circling the village, waiting for another chance to attack. How to be Komodo dragon safe. What to do if you feel threatened by a Komodo dragon. Don't go alone. Dragons usually only hunt solitary animals, so pay for a guide, stay with the group, and don't get separated. Stay on the path. Dragons primarily hunt by ambushing their prey, so stay in well-lit areas and avoid dense bushes or shadowy obstacles, such as fallen logs. Keep your distance. Sometimes dragons will feel threatened by a human that gets too close or is too loud. Be respectful and keep at least 5 meters between you both at all times. Be aware of smell. Komodo dragons have an incredible sense of smell, so it's a good idea to avoid any strong perfumes or colognes. And if you're currently menstruating, it would be wise to stay away from dragons altogether, as even the slightest smell of blood can cause them to attack. If the Komodo dragon does attack, run in a zigzag pattern. Dragons aren't that fast, and you may be able to outrun them. They only run in straight lines, so zigzagging will confuse and distract them. If it bites, don't bother trying to hurt it with punches. Its armored skin is almost impenetrable. Instead, try to use a stick and aim for its eyes and nose. Try to use your hands to pry its jaws apart and get away. Finally, if you've been bitten, seek medical help immediately. While it's untrue that Komodo dragon saliva contains poisonous bacteria, it's still about as hygienic as a lion's jaws. you almost certainly need antibiotics.